What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Early Edge, and your boy is back in his seat. What an incredible trip to Florida I had, hanging out with the Golden Bear, Jack Nicklaus, and all those incredible PGA Tour and LPGA Tour players, but we are back and focused on the NFL. Let's bring in the stars of the show. By the way, Kelsey already in the chat. Give me a big welcome back. So thank you, Kelsey, for running that for us every single show. So here's my stars. R.J. White. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm doing good, except for my team is terrible. Doesn't know how to play in the wind. So besides, they're on the fringe of the playoff hunt. So we'll see if they can get there. Everybody thought they were going to the Super Bowl a few weeks ago. Now I don't even know if they're a playoff team. So, hopefully they'll bounce back. But you look at who they got on the schedule this week, and I'm not optimistic.
I'm torn because I have so much love for you and your teams, but I bet on the Patriots last night. So every time they got inside the 20, I was like, no. And then they couldn't score. What did you make, Mikey, of what Sean McVay said after the game last night? Let's not give Bill Belichick too much credit. I thought that was a little immature, to be honest.
Yeah, it was an interesting comment that's where his head was, and could tell us how frustrated he is. Essentially, he's right in one sense that they had the opportunities. They visited the red zone pretty frequently for that game. They just couldn't convert, and it's a comment that he made out of frustration for sure, because it's something that he was hearing after the game instantly, and rightfully so. I do think Bill has earned it at this point in his career. I think it's just a comment out of pure frustration. And I feel for RJ here in this spot because, I think the Bills, if they don't win against Tampa this week, I might consider them underdogs to make the playoffs.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
It's a complete opposite of our team, right? A few weeks ago, the Chiefs might have been considered not necessarily underdogs, but they had a really big uphill battle to be in the playoffs again. And then now, fast forward to today, and we basically flip spots with the Bills. We are easily the consensus best team in the AFC and maybe even the consensus best team in the league in terms of power ratings. So, it's total 180 for both of those two teams.
There is no question about it. And the Patriots still have to play the Bills one more time. The schedule is not favorable to Buffalo. Some of those games they gave away may come back to haunt them down the stretch. So for those of you who are brand new to this show, this is where we get ahead of the number. This is where my guys and, wait a second, guys. I feel like we're missing somebody today. Oh, yes. A big-time shout-out. We have a new member of the Early Edge team. I need you all to go to social media when the show is over and show your love for our guy, the Maestro, who had a brand new baby girl last night, Jackie. And in true Jackie fashion, she showed up late first quarter. So he couldn't even watch the game in the room. But what an incredible blessing. New baby in the Early Edge family. Congratulations to the Maestro. So we get into our best bets. Then we go through every single game, and my guys will tell you exactly where the edges are, what they think of the number, what they think of the total, and if you should jump on the number early or wait until later in the week. Mikey tells you every single week, this is the hour that you have to watch. So let's get started. RJ, I want you to start the ball for us this week. Week 14, hard to believe that the playoffs are only a few weeks away. Give us your best bets, and I know you got several today. I love a lot of the matchups this week. The floor is yours.
Yeah, well, first shout out to Maestro. If you're going to have a child and you have to miss a game, that's the game to miss. I wish I could have had a reason not to watch that game. So good planning on his part there to know that weather was coming in 9 months ago or so. No, I like the Bucks -3 against the Bills. I mean, I think the Bills have plenty of questions to answer. I think the Bucks are still the top team in my power ratings, and I would make them 3 at home against some of the best teams in the league. And I'm not sure Buffalo qualifies now. With Tre'Davious White out, that increases the odds that Brady's going to throw all over them because they don't have their best cornerback. And then with the Buffalo, if Buffalo's offense is playing to their top level and their potential, they could go toe-to-toe with Brady, and they might win this game, pull it out in a shootout. But we've seen they've been so inconsistent that you just can't count on that. So if we get the flat Buffalo offense, this could be a 30-point loss. You just don't know what you're going to get with Buffalo. But
no doubt.
that range of outcomes makes me think, if the Buffalo offense shows up, this is a 50-50 play. If not, Tampa's going to run away with it. So I love getting on Tampa -3 right now. Raiders +9.5 is a fade on this Chiefs offense. It still doesn't look good. That was kind of a fake final on that Sunday night game. I should have been a 13-10, 16-20 12 type of game. It was so ugly and defensively oriented. And I can't believe that it didn't get the cover there with the Broncos because Chiefs offense didn't play well. So I know that the Vegas is the one defense they played well against. So maybe they just Mahomes throws another 5 touchdowns and they rout him again. But I'm rooting for a little bit different here. I think this number should be a little bit lower. And just with the Chiefs offense still not clicking, I think this could be a closer, lower scoring game than people think. Those Chiefs unders have been coming in hot, the last 6-7 weeks. And then my other play is the 49ers +1. I think Cincy is legit when everybody's healthy, but that injury for Burrow, that could be a really bad injury, having to play through that. He sounds like he's going to play through it, but it seemed to affect the way he threw the ball in that game. And going up against a good San Francisco team, I don't trust that they'll be able to get it done there. I think San Francisco can score points on Cincy, and with Burrow and that injury issue, I think we're getting a good value there, even though it's come down a little bit now, but I wanted to get it before I got to pick them because I think it's going to get over to where San Fran is favored. So getting in a +1, I think made sense.
Listen, everybody, listen to what RJ says. If it's going to go up, get on it right now. Don't send us a tweet and say, why are you giving this out on Tuesday? It's all about beating the number. It doesn't matter what day of the week that it is. This is one of those games, RJ, too, that you look at on the board this week and you're like, this could be a really good game. A lot of NFC playing AFC matchups you don't see very often. I think this would be kind of a cool week. I think it could be kind of a cool week. And you picked one of the games I really have my eye on. All right, Mikey, your turn. And I love how many early plays you have for us this week. It's all you.
All right, I'll start with the two that RJ's on also. It's always a good thing when I'm on the same side as RJ over here. Yep. So I like the Bucs -3 as well. A little surprised at this number. I fully expected it to be at 4, and it might close there still, but that's where I would expect it to be. At this point in Tom's career, we want Tom playing, basically in more controlled environments, more warmer environments. Mm-hmm. That's what they get when they play at home. Not a massive believer in home road splits unless you really dive into them, just because it's still matchup dependent on who you played at home versus who you played on the road. But it's pretty obvious for him. He prefers there. The touchdown passing is much better there. He's got the weapons, still more chemistry with Rob Gronkowski in the red zone. So I make this one -5.9 in the simulations. So I think it's an absolute gift getting it through or at this key number of 3, not having to get to those key numbers of 4 and 5. Other game I like the 49ers. I also agree here that the 49ers are going to be favored by the time this game kicks off. There's an outside chance that Deebo Samuel plays in this game. I think that if they had not lost to the Seattle Seahawks, there's no chance he plays in this game. But they cannot mess around now. They must go win football games to keep their season alive at this point. So I do think that there's a good chance that Deebo gets activated and they push him out there and he plays through it. If we get any news remotely similar to that, this team's going to close -1.5. I'm very concerned about Joe Burrow playing through. He's obviously playing through this injury. He's young, got a lot of pride. They kind of have to play him through it. So not a great spot for them and pretty bad loss. I know they dropped the touchdown pass, but not a great loss the way they lost it against that Chargers team that I don't think the Chargers team is actually as good as we think they are. So I do like the 49ers here. Now to the Baltimore Ravens. This one's just a little too many points for me. I know it's a tough road game against the Browns. David Njoku is going to be out for the Browns. I think that's a pretty big deal for that passing attack, especially if the Browns fall behind it all here. Lamar's absolutely been shaky at times, a lot like the Chiefs offense, really. They've been pretty shaky at times. However, they are healthy. They've got their offensive unit together there. I expect a big game from Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews. Bateman's out there. Watkins is back. Just too many points. I think this one should be closer to a pick'em. So getting them at 2.5 is a pretty big gift. If you want to wait it out and gamble on it, it might go to 3. But it wouldn't shock me at all if this one went to 1 or pick'em by the time this one kicked off as well. New Orleans Saints -5. I like this spot here. There's a good chance that they get Alvin Kamara back. If not, I still like Taysom Hill and the way they're going to be able to run the ball against this defense. So it's a much easier matchup for Taysom Hill than it was against the Cowboys. Just another week in there. So this one at -5, I think, is a pretty nice gift, getting it under a touchdown.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about your teasers there, Mikey?
Oh, yeah. And then, of course, the teasers makes sense. The Ravens getting them to the key number, through the key numbers, all of them, all the way up to 8.5. 49ers at a touchdown. And then the Saints, it is teasing through 0 at the number. I got it down to +1 with the Ravens +8.5. But with the Ravens, look, I think they cover this game at 2.5, but I definitely think that they're within the 8.5 in that close division game against the Browns.
Yeah, I hope everybody at home took the advice from my guys last week, because there were several games and several teams that were ripe for the teaser picking. Washington came through just like we thought in the teaser. You brought the Chiefs down. So teasers are really a good way, especially in this craziness that we're calling the 2021 NFL season, that to get the extra 6 has been huge. So play those teasers, get them in, as Mikey talks about, getting through those all-important numbers of 3 and 7. All right, let's get into every single game. With only 2 of you, we're going to have a lot to talk about over the course of the next 45 minutes or so. First game Thursday night, and there's a lot of game, guys. A lot of game. RJ, I'm going to start with you. That when you look at it, both teams cannot afford to stumble the rest of the way. Steelers are one of those. They had a huge win this weekend. They go on the road to Minnesota. The Vikings -3. The total is 45. RJ, talk to me.
Yeah, a bit of a letdown spot for the Steelers after that big win. Bit of a, get focused game for Minnesota after losing to the team that didn't have any wins. And I think you kind of look at yourself in the mirror and say, we got to be better. We need to focus now. So this came down at the look ahead of 4. Now that it's at 3, I love the Vikings here. Their defense has struggled lately, culminating giving up those 29 points to Detroit, falling apart on the last drive, which was terrible. But like I said, I think this is where you look yourself in the mirror and say, we got to play better. We can't. We're not a playoff team if we play like that. Their 2 games prior to that were versus great offenses, and they played well versus the Chargers before that. I think the Steelers offense still is not playing well. They needed that Humphrey injury to rally back late last week. They weren't doing anything. And then they finally broke through in the fourth quarter when Humphrey left the game. I think his last tackle was in the end of the third quarter. So they started rallying back a little bit before that, and then that kind of unlocked it there. Against a defense that'll be more at full strength, I think they'll have some issues. Their defense destroyed Baltimore's offensive line and got to Lamar repeatedly in that game. That's why Baltimore didn't score any points. Minnesota's offensive line is number 2 in adjusted sack rate. If there is an offensive line that can handle this pass rush and not give up 7 sacks, 8 sacks, whatever the Steelers had, Minnesota should be able to do that. So I like Minnesota at -3. Seems like we're getting value there. This line should probably be, I think, 5 or maybe even 6, just depending on how the Steelers react to that win.
Yeah, give big props to AB in the chat today for us. Steelers 1-4 thanks to AB against the spread on short rest since the start of last season. And this certainly would qualify as short rest, playing, on 4 days' note, especially Big Ben coming out saying this will probably be his last season. You know he's going to give it everything he has. But, Mikey, when we look at the Steelers and the fact that they are with that tie, if they really play well, that could come back to hurt them, because there's a couple teams right ahead of them that are at 7-5 instead of 6-5-1.
Yeah, no, it could definitely come back to hurt them, and I am worried about them on the short rest here. I think the biggest piece of news in this game also is going to be Chase Claypool. He's held out of practice. There's a chance he is not able to go in this game for the Steelers. Wide receivers don't make a ton of difference in the point spread, but in this particular case, with Ben, he does need one of those deeper threats down the field. It really helps Deontay Johnson if Claypool's out there on the other side. So something to watch if Ray McLeod's going to be forced into that action just on a short week. Not a great spot for the Steelers. Having said that, though, my number on the game, -2.8 is where I make it. 43.4 is the total. Slight lean to the under on that. I would take the Vikings here at -3 before I would take the Steelers at +3 at this point. But overall, I think it's going to be a lot of more player prop interest for me. And, of course, a donkey parlay on Early Edge Live Thursday night. We will definitely have that. But I can't get to any play on the pregame here personally just yet.
Speaking of that player prop, John, take an eye, look at the touchdown props in that game as soon as you can, because with Adam Thielen banged up, you might want to get on that Tyler Conklin touchdown, because that's going to be a little higher than it should be, just based on, they've used him in the red zone when they've needed to. And so if you throw that in now, I think it's going to come down as you get closer to game time and people wise up to Adam Thielen being hurt and maybe not even playing in this game. So I think he's going to have a good shot to get a touchdown. You might be able to get, plus 400 or some crazy odds in this for any time touchdown on him. So keep an eye on that when those props open and see if you can grab that.
Yeah, RJ, that's a great point. We have found out here on the Early Edge that people love the anytime touchdown play. They love to root for their favorite player or player that you guys tell them to play. I love it. So I just wrote down Tyler Conklin. As soon as I could bet on him to score a touchdown, damn it, I'm going to do it. By the way, I just saw who showed up in the chat. And today on the Twitter, boys, did you see our boy Pooh Bear? He has a brand new Early Edge spanking hoodie, and he gave us a little video today. Educate and entertain. and I said it on Twitter, and damn it, I'll say it again. So much better than AB ever thought about doing it. You hear me, AB, because I see you in the chat. I hear you. I see you. All right, here we go. Game number 2. And, of course, Mikey, I'm coming to you. And this is a big one for both teams. I don't think the Browns are very good. One week they play well, score 40. The next week they can't score anything. Ravens on the road. Browns are favored here by 2.5. Total 42. Mikey, I know you're on the Ravens. Talk to me.
Yeah, I'm on the Ravens. I basically make the game a pick 'em. I make the Browns minus a half a point. And that's too much value here at 2.5. So that's why I'm on the Ravens. My total is 42.3. So no real edge there. But I think they're the team at this point. So I don't trust the Browns. I don't trust Baker Mayfield really at all. I know Njoku's not a massive threat in the offense, but he definitely helps to have him out there on the field. Gives them that threat, especially if they fall behind at all in this game. So, look, Lamar's been shaky, but even when Lamar's shaky, he makes some ridiculous plays, and the Ravens pretty much find themselves in competitive games, and I expect that to be true here again. I love that everyone's healthy. They got Marquise Brown, they've got Mark Andrews, they got Bateman, they got Watkins. Lamar's going to look to run. I mean, they're back to the territory where they got to win these games. The AFC is incredibly competitive now at the top, so I think they're the better team, and I truly think this game should be closer to a pick 'em.
I'm glad you mentioned incredibly competitive. RJ, let me ask you this question. There's 4 teams in the AFC that have 4 losses. Patriots have 9 wins, though, as opposed to the other 3 just with 8. Of those 4 teams, Pats, Titans, Ravens, Chiefs, who do you think will be or has the inside track to be the lone bye number 1 seed?
Well, I've got to say New England. They already have that extra win, and Ravens and Titans. I can't get there with them with how they've played and how they've looked. So Chiefs are in the mix too, obviously, but their offense isn't really clicking, and their defense is playing exceptionally. So is New England's. So I just give New England the edge with that half point.
Okay.
On Baltimore, though, I don't know that everybody's healthy. I know the offense is healthy, but they just lost Marlon Humphrey for the year. It's going to be easier to pass on them. They already had trouble tackling, and now they lose their best cornerback. And the last few weeks, the injury report on the defensive side has just been a laundry list of names. So I've been worried about their defense. It hasn't been too bad for them for the most part, but now with Humphrey gone, I think that's going to be a significant loss. And then the Browns lost Conklin for the year that last game. So they also are dealing with their own injuries there. That lowers the ceiling of this Cleveland offense. I agree with Mikey that the line should be lower. My number makes it lower, but I just can't get there with Baltimore with how the offenses look bad, and now I'm not confident in the defense either. So I'm probably staying away from this.
RJ, let me ask you this. Butch in the chat, and thank you, Butch, says that Conklin is 210 or plus 210 anytime touchdown on Caesars. Do you like that number?
I like it anywhere 200 or higher. So I think
Okay.
if you're I think some people can get 250, 240. I think so some books are asleep at the wheel. The book that we had down in Florida before they closed up shop was asleep at the wheel on the Matt Breida prop I liked on Thanksgiving. Other books were giving it away at 4 something, and I got it at 550 there. So I think there's just ways that you can maybe find these little known players that teams are that books aren't paying attention to and get great value there. But I think if you're getting it anywhere plus 200 or better, he's a good bet to score. He's going to be used in the red zone.
I'm glad that you mentioned the sports books down in Florida. I want to run a scenario by you. Tell me what you guys would do. So I would just spend the last 3 days there, and all anybody could talk about was the shutdown sports books at the Hard Rock. But here's the kicker, guys. All of these people have deposited money. They got tons of money in their accounts. All the bets are voided, and now they have to wait to get their money back. Not that the money's not sitting there, but getting it back is going to be one of the hardest things. And they are angry because they have a bunch of money to sit there. What would you do?
I mean, I got my money back pretty quickly.
You did? Okay.
I put a withdrawal in, and I believe 2 days later I had it in my account. So it wasn't too bad from my end. I was expecting a lot longer, but so yeah, I'll be looking to put it right back in when they open up again, but I wasn't going to leave it there, obviously, but yeah, it was fine for me.
Okay, very good, very good. All right, moving on. Game number 3 on our board this week, and thank you again for checking out our Week 14 Mega Preview. We do it every single Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Mikey, RJ, and normally the Maestro is here, but he had a little baby girl yesterday, Jackie. So let me come back to you, RJ. Jags and the Titans, and there's a bunch of us that are sitting on a Titans over 9 futures ticket, and they've been sitting on 8 for a couple of weeks. Do you think they will get to 9 wins this week against the Jags?
You would hope so. But, Jacksonville is terrible. But I don't have it. If the Titans have Julio Jones back, I'm a little more confident in their offense. But, If they don't, it's they lost to the Jets when they were undermanned on offense. So who knows what they can do on offense. Jacksonville's offense best game came versus Tennessee in week 5. They had 454 total yards, almost 200 yards rushing the ball. We know Urban wants to go 250. He believes you got to get to 250 rushing yards to win a game, which is, I guess, why the Jaguars are so bad this year. The Jaguars defense is terrible, but they have a shot at not getting trounced against this beat up Tennessee offense. And I think the Sharps have been on that. This line was in double digits. It came down 9.5. Now it's at 9. So people are moving it down. I wanted to get on Jacksonville. Couldn't get it at 10. Was hoping it would go back up for after 9.5. As people like, I only have to lay 9.5. I don't even have to lay double digits with Titans against one of the worst teams in the league. But it's going to keep on coming down, it looks like. So I'm holding out hope. I don't want to play Jacksonville really at 9. But if you got it at 10 or higher, then congratulations.
I don't want to play the Jags ever, but sometimes they're the option to do that. Mikey, I think RJ brings up a very, very good point. Where, as a big-time capper like you two are, when do you look at it and say, you know what, that team is only worried about getting in, getting the win, and getting out and moving on? Because I feel like the Titans are in that category right now, just trying to get to the playoffs with everything that's happened to them this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely their goal. They're not about the point spread whatsoever. Their goal is to win the football game and be in control of it. It helps that they're playing at home. But they're in survival mode. They cannot afford any more injuries. They cannot afford to lose any more football games. They got to continue. And this is one that, it's essentially, when you look at the schedule, it should be a free square. There's things a free square in the NFL, but it's about as close as it gets, right? Mm-hmm. On your home field, you got to take care of those games. My number on it, I make them minus 8.2. 43.8, pretty close on the total. I would have had recommended a play on Jacksonville if you were getting it at 10.5 and 10. At 9, I'm not playing it. I'm not super comfortable there, but I'm certainly not comfortable laying minus 9 with the Titans either. I do think Jacksonville will have success moving the football against them. It's just a matter of what does that red zone efficiency look like? Are they able to punch the ball in the end zone? Do they turn the ball over? But the back door is going to be wide open on this one at 9. I don't see Tennessee cruising comfortably with a 20-plus point lead late in this game. So I think they'll have it in hand, and I think they'll do what they can to get out of there with the win and pick up that win here at home. But I want no part of this game at this number.
Okay, we're going to stay away from that for the most part. Go ahead, RJ.
One other thing to add: if this comes down 8.5, people are going to be like, "Oh, now it's time to tease Tennessee, get it down under 3." I wouldn't even do that with this offense. We saw how bad they played against the Jets, in that game. I wouldn't touch them at all. Don't be confident Tennessee has to win this game just because the lines come down. It seems like you're getting great value. You could get to this ugly type of game like that Bills game where it was 9-6 and the Bills lost. I think Tennessee could be in for one of those type of games if Jacksonville is playing well.
One of the things that this show is built on is this right here. Mikey, complete this sentence. Sometimes the best bets you make are
the ones that you don't make at all.
You're damn right. And this feels like one of those spots. The next game, however, we're not so sure. RJ's on one side, but I'm going to start with Mikey because this is our favorite team, the Chiefs. And what's really funny here, guys, is that we've been talking all year about the Chiefs and the offense, and they're not covering. Now, all of a sudden, they're covering, but they're doing it in such ugly fashion that I don't know if it's a good thing or we still should be worried. Mikey, talk to me here, 9.5, 48.5.
Yeah, another one where I'm pretty much dead on. I don't feel great about laying it with the Chiefs, but I don't feel confident at all with the Raiders either. I think that they're really struggling, and, it's the Hunter Renfrow show, essentially. Carr is zoned in on him. But the real question is we keep asking this question over the last few weeks is the Chiefs defense for real? At first we thought they haven't played anybody really. They haven't played anybody really. Chiefs defense has looked really good, really, really, really good recently. So I can't get to it at this number. I would need this one to be like down to 8. If you can get down to 8 even, then I would feel pretty decent about playing the Chiefs in this one. But I'm not playing it at 9, 9.5, 10. I think that they're also in the same boat, right? I think that the Chiefs are going to win this game, and they should win this game, but we're not at all concerned about covering the spread. We also want to stay healthy, and the way that the Chiefs do this when they're winning and controlling drives, we have such long drives that just eat up an entire quarter at a time, and that's great for winning football games. It's not great for covering spreads in this spot. So I love that we get to play at home again. It's obviously another must-win game for us, but I can't get there at this number. Like I said, it needs to be -8 for me to get there. I would need 10.5 to 11 probably to feel good about the Raiders.
Yeah, it's also not a good spot for an over. But RJ, when I come to you, you like the Raiders here. Is it more about the fact that the last 2 years the Chiefs historically have not been able to cover spreads not even close to this number?
Well, it's that, and it's the concerns about the offense. It seems like defenses have really figured out what to do, against the Chiefs to limit them, and they're just not scoring a ton of points unless they get some help, with muffed punts and things like that, and pick sixes like they did on Sunday. So with that fake cover, their offenses look pretty bad in that game, and some of that is Denver. Vic Fangio is going to play that offense pretty well, so I don't know that the Raiders can replicate that. The Raiders did stun Dallas on Thanksgiving. They scored 16 or less in their other 4 games since the bye, so I'm not too confident about their offense either. But that Chiefs defense, I'm a complete believer in them. And it all was unlocked when you move Chris Jones back inside and stop making him play edge, which makes you think. He's an all-world guy in the inside, and everybody knew that. We've seen him in the Super Bowl. Why would you put him out in the edge in the first place and weaken your defense like that? It just didn't make any sense. So credit to them for fixing the issue there, but I don't know why they did in the first place. So if that Chiefs offense that destroyed Vegas a few weeks back shows up, they'll cover this game. I just think, these unders have been coming in for the Chiefs, that the offense not playing well and the defense playing great, that I like, fading a big line with the Chiefs. And the line's already, the over under was, I think, 52 at open, and it's down to 48.5 now. It just keeps dropping. So it seems like everybody's expecting a lower scoring game. And in those, I like the underdog, the big underdog that's more than a touchdown dog to cover there. That's why I'm on the Raiders at this number, even though I would have obviously preferred to have it at 10.
Yeah, it's hard for me to argue with you with that analysis and the way things have gone and the way that both teams have played. It feels like an ugly, grinded out Chiefs victory, which would be like 4 or 5 points. Exactly what you guys have said. All right, let's move on. Next game, 5th game on the board, and the Saints have been one of the most interesting, fascinating, weird teams of this season. They're laying 5. They're on the road in New York or New Jersey. Take on the Jets. Total sitting here at 43. The Jets played pretty good for about 2.5 quarters against the Eagles, and then they became the Jets again. So, RJ, the Saints at 5-7, certainly on the outside looking in, I would think, would need to at least win out or go 4-1 the rest of the way. But you like the Saints here, correct?
I do like the Saints. I know Mikey's on the Saints. I'm hoping the line keeps dropping and I can get them at a good value. Taysom dealing with a finger injury similar to what Russ had. It's not as bad. He's not going to go on IR. He struggled passing when that showed up. So if he has to throw a bunch in this game, then that's going to be an issue. But it's the Jets. You don't have to throw a bunch against the Jets. They have a terrible defense. So he should be able to run around, get 100 yards on the ground, and lead that offense to a good day. As long as the tackles are back. You watch injury report. We're waiting for those offensive tackles to come back. It seems like they're always looks like they might be coming back, and then they're ruled out, on Fridays or on, I guess they played Thanksgiving. They played Thursdays the last 2 weeks, so on Wednesdays. So if they're now getting extra rest and they're able to play, I like them much better. The Jets defense gave up 7 straight scoring drives to Gardner Minshew, and I like Gardner Minshew. I thought he was going to have a good game in there, but it just shows you how bad you give up 7 straight scoring drives, and the last drive is whatever. The Eagles are way up, and they just punt it. So the Jets offense played great to start that game, then they fell apart after the first 3 drives, so maybe Zach Wilson's getting better, a drive at a time, and he'll come 4 straight drives here. But I think this is really a good get right spot for New Orleans, coming off 5 straight losses. They know that the playoffs are fading away, so they come out here, they win this game. I'm pretty sure they cover the 5, but hopefully we'll be able to get a little bit lower before I play it.
I just hate having to play on the road laying 5 in front of an atmosphere. It's going to be horrible. We know it's going to be horrible. It's going to be awful. All right, so we're going to either play the Saints or stay away. And Mikey, I know you're on that as well. Would you even consider? And I know it doesn't cross over the numbers that you like, but from a teaser perspective, if you tease the Saints, all they have to do is win the game. Would you put them into?
It's actually one of my official plays. I have the Saints minus 5, and right. I have the Saints teased. It does tease it through 0 down to +1.
There you go.
And in some spots, I actually expect the line to move the other way. I think it's going to hit 6 relatively quickly. I think we're going to get some pretty good news out of the Saints in terms of the line. I think we're going to get news that Alvin Kamara is going to practice a little more fully this week leading into this game. So I expect this one to close at 6.5. I make it 6.3 right now, but that was giving a lot of credit. I actually upgraded the Jets just a little bit because of how good Wilson looked at times. It's probably
he did.
credit. But he looked competent for one of the first times in his career. Have to keep in mind the opponent, the game situation, all of those things. But I'm going to continue to bet against the Jets, against them in this spot. So I like the Saints -5 and like them in the teaser. And I'll still like them in the teaser as long as you're not laying more than -1 on the teaser side of it. So you'll have that opportunity available for the next 2 days anyway.
There you go. Listen to Mikey. If he thinks it's going to go up, or RJ, it usually does. And you don't want to get it to any more than -7 because then it would be -1 on the teaser. All right, let's move on. Really good stuff so far, guys. Thank you very much. All right, Mikey, we're coming back to you. And this is a really, really big game this week. Classic NFC East matchup. Classic. Technically, I guess they're blue bloods in the NFL. They've been around for so long. Cowboys on the road. Now, this number shocked me a little bit. Mikey, I want you to tell me why I should not be shocked that a Washington team that recently beat the Bucs, recently have been on a winning streak, go on the road to Las Vegas, win there as well, why they're getting 4 at home, total 48.
Yeah, I mean, they win games and they've been in these games, but they're still not healthy. They just lost Logan Thomas, who they brought back. J.D. McKissick banged up, may not play in this game. Going to be another heavy dose of Antonio Gibson, but they've been scrappy. They've been winning these games, but they're not dominant by any means. And I'm not ready to say that the Raiders team, while it is a road win in the National Football League, really hard to go win on the road anywhere against anyone. I'm not convinced the Raiders team is any good right now. I really think that they're definitely on a big negative trajectory. So, look, it's a tough division game. The Cowboys are still a tough out. Like they offensively, when they're clicking, even remotely clicking, they have a number of weapons that can beat you at any time. So we expect a competitive game here. I can't quite get to the -4, so my number on it's -3.7.
Okay.
Look, I think it's, for me, I'm staying away for now unless we get some later line movement. I think it's it should play like a primetime game, right? So the reason why people ask me why I do the donkey parlays in primetime, the reason why I do them is because I can bet both sides of the game, and we should have the most competitive games in those spots. This profiles as a primetime game in division.
Gotcha.
We want the market to be incredibly efficient, because if the market is correct on the number where there's no value betting on the total or the side, that's when I can come in and bet both sides, both totals all at once, and play on the fact that the market is dead on and right and correct, and it's going to fall within that range. So this profiles is one where you might actually have a bonus donkey parlay for it, because I personally think the numbers are dead on in this spot. It is a road game for the Cowboys. Yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say about it. I wish I could give you a play on it, but I really can't, because I think it's dead on market.
Mike, why are you going to go tease the people like that? You know how much they love the donkey parlay. You know that. Now we're going to have to give one out on Sunday. I don't know, RJ. I felt like going after him, but I've lost two showdowns to him lately. I can't really go after him.
I thought you were going to talk about it being a road game for Dallas. It's in Washington. Washington is has no home field advantage ever. So
you know how much I hate that home field. You know I hate it. That's what you thought I was going to go. I hate the Washington State. It's awful. It's awful. It's a horrible spot. It's outside of town. It's terrible. You can't park. You can't tailgate. I hate Washington and their stadium. No, just their stadium, not you know what I mean. See what you got me in trouble there, RJ. You got me in trouble. All right, let's move it on to the next one. This really means nothing to anybody, to be honest. These two teams have played themselves out of the playoff picture, because this is going to be a year, guys, that I think a 9-8 team could get in, an 8-9 team, potentially how it plays out. But the Falcons and the Panthers will not be those two teams. Panthers laying 3, 42.5. They've been a mess. RJ, talk to me.
Well, the Panthers fixed their issue. They fired the offensive coordinator, who was obviously the guy that was holding them back, and now they're going to power run the ball, which is what they want to do. So yes. Good. Panthers are going to win the rest of their games, because obviously Joe Brady was the issue. No, it seems like so ridiculous. I mean, this should look good here. It's the easiest test you can have coming out of the bye versus Atlanta, because their defense is bad. But I don't expect fireworks if they're going to run the ball. So I could see this going under. I kind of like it when it was at 43 under. Now it's dropped a little bit. So I'm probably not playing it at 42.5. The Atlanta offense collapsed in their first meeting against this Carolina defense, only 213 yards and a 19-13 loss. They were probably going to see a similar game here. Carolina likely wins. Neither team gets to 20, or maybe one barely gets to 20. And that lowest scoring game favors the dog. So I want to lean Panthers, but I think it might come down to 2.5, and then I might play Panthers. But I think it's probably a 3-point final either way, and it's a low scoring game.
It's funny you mentioned Joe Brady because he was so celebrated to leave LSU, go to Carolina, leave college, go to the pros. He's going to be the next young big thing. And look at this now, less than 2 years later, he's now back looking for a job. Maybe he'll end up back at LSU. Who knows? Who knows? All right, next game also screams. Oh, do you have something there, Mikey? I'm sorry.
I was just going to tell the people the best part about this game is it's a 1:00 game, which means there are 7 other games you can watch at this time.
Great point. Great point. And this next game is the same way. I've got one word, Mikey, for this next game. Yuck. Just yuck. Are you serious right now? Seahawks, they've been awful, but then they played pretty well against the 49ers. They go on the road. They're laying 7 and the hook against Houston, who got shut out by the Colts 31-0, total 41.5. Your thoughts on – I don't even know what to do with this game.
Yeah, and it looks like it could be another Davis Mills game, which would make me lean in favor of the Seahawks here. We need some confirmation on that one, but I want to see my number, 6.9. So, yeah, I don't really have any value on either side. I'd be interested in some player props in this one. I think it's a spot where Tyler Lockett could have a pretty big game, especially if it does remain competitive at all. But I'm certainly not interested in taking Houston or anything on this game until we know who's quarterbacking for him in this one. So like you said, it's like the other one before. I'm going to stay away from it, but I do have some interest in props on Tyler Lockett.
RJ, have we ever had 3 yuck games in a row this year in our mega preview? I don't think we've ever had 3 yuck games in a row.
I mean, there was a few weeks where it seemed like every spread was 9 and 10 and 12. So, yeah. I mean, it's you got those and you're just like, I don't know, man. They'll probably cover, but I don't want to lay this many points. Let's pass. It just seemed like that was happening for a couple weeks in a row. In this one, I like the under. It keeps dropping. I don't know. I'm at 41.5. I'm probably not playing at that point. Russ finally looks healthy, but you take away that fake punt and they average just 3.8 yards per play in that game. So they scored 30, but it was kind of a fake 30 when you're only averaging that many yards per play. And they typically don't run a lot of plays. There was a lot of 3 and outs in punting before this game. So if you're doing that per play and you're typically not running a bunch of plays, I worry about how that looks moving forward. I mean, I think they'll score versus a terrible Houston team, but it's going to be a lot of ball control, sitting on second half lead, giving it to Adrian Peterson so he can pick up 2 yards for you because that's what he's good for. Had to get that guy in the building now because it seems like whatever's consistent, all the teams he moves to and goes to all these different teams, he's always going like 11 for 14 every single game. But Houston's offense is unsalvageable with Davis Mills likely starting for the injured Tyrod, or if Tyrod plays injured, I mean, he's not going to be effective anyway. Houston has as many games under 10 points as they do over in 2021. Not 1964, in 2021. So this is a team you want to play unders for. If Seattle's offense is firing on all cylinders, maybe they ruin the under by themselves. But it's probably going to be a lower scoring game. And that's a big number for Seahawks covering a lower scoring ball control game. So I'm probably staying away.
Full disclosure, we leaned towards the under last week. And I was at my big event in Florida. So I was like kind of looking at my phone, looking at the scores for late games. And wouldn't you know it, the one time I played the under in a Seattle game, it was 24-21.5? Something like that. I was like, are you kidding me right now? So you never know, but maybe the Seahawks will score 2 weeks in a row. Don't know. But I've learned a lot doing this show with you guys this year. And the one thing I've learned is that a team may not be as good as we think they are based off of one performance. And Mikey, when I look at the Denver Broncos, that's exactly who I look at. There's been times this year they looked spectacular. And then they have a couple of weeks where they can't even score. Last week, they didn't look good against the Chiefs. So now they're at home, probably out of the playoffs to speak of. -8 Lions, total 42. We got to give the Lions credit. They cashed for us this past weekend, but getting 8 going to Mile High, what do we think?
I think it's the correct number. My interest is going to start and end in this game with Javonte Williams on his player props and DFS lineups. I think that he's really primed for another big game in this one. I will say the Broncos, their defense looked fine. The Chiefs, a lot of it was on their end, a lot of drop passes, a lot of things, timing was off, but they looked good. The Lions, the question mark here is there any sort of a letdown after getting that first win, now on the road, playing at altitude? in the elements. It's a different game than frankly what they're kind of used to right there. So I don't have any interest at 8. I think you could lean on the under, but I think that's really the only place you can go. So my total on the under is 40.2, decent edge, and it's below a pretty key number here in the league. So for me, it would be under, but really it's all about Javonte Williams in the player prop and daily fantasy markets.
Okay, very good. Of course, stay tuned on Sunday throughout the morning and also our noon Eastern show for Early Edge Live to get the very latest on games like this. You don't want to be shut out, and you don't want to miss my guys at noon on Sunday. All right, next game on the board, and now we're getting into the late games. The Broncos 405, 49ers and Bengals also 405. Bengals laying 1, 47.5. I know, RJ, both of you like the 49ers. Explain yourselves a little bit more in detail.
Yeah, both teams had been hot, but now both are coming off a loss. I think San Francisco's defense played well despite the final score. We went into that a little bit, how it was a little bit of a fake 30 for Seattle. Hopefully Warner is going to be back this week. We'll be monitoring the injury report for him because he's done such a great job on that defense. But since he also lost a key linebacker as well in the last game, even if Warner's out, since he's kind of dealing with the same issue on their side for their defense, I'm more concerned with Burrow's finger injury. Looked like he struggled to play through it. That's ultimately what put me on San Francisco in this game, because I just don't think he's going to be very effective with that finger injury. I'm also shocked at how bad Cincy's D played early against the Chargers. Can Shanahan replicate that and make them a little bit more competitive in this game against San Francisco and against Cincinnati? We'll see. I think Cincinnati's D struggles to contain George Kittle, while Cincy's offense loses some upside with the Burrow injury. So seems like a San Francisco win to me here. They bounce back.
Mikey, let me ask you this. What was the biggest issue that the Bengals had last week, other than the fact they didn't start playing until about 1:40 in the afternoon instead of 1 p.m.? But what was their biggest issue, and can they turn around in only 7 short days?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have a number of issues. It was a tougher matchup for them defensively against a team that has some weapons, but this 49ers team, especially if Debo is able to play, will definitely have the weapons. But really, what RJ said, Joe Burrow's playing through an injury, and it's an injury that's difficult to play through as a quarterback. And frankly, even more difficult when you're a young quarterback. And the reason for that is because you don't have a long history of playing through that kind of injury. That is one that is likely to happen to you several times throughout your career if you have a long, successful career. And now he's basically getting to experience this one for, one of the first times. But for me, it's the 49ers. They're a better team than their record indicates. I believe they're 6-6. They're a better team than that. And the Bengals at times, they've overperformed. So I don't give them much home field advantage playing there. I like the fact that it's not an early start time with this one, I believe.
Yes. Sure it's 4:25.
Yeah. Yep. See, that's it's that helps a lot. So I like the 49ers here. I think the wrong team is favored, frankly. You talked to RJ mentioning they're getting healthy there. I think Debo Samuel, we're going to get news over the next few days. The verbiage used on his injury now has been week to week and then hopeful to play in week 14. I think they're going to take it easy with him, but I would bet by the time Saturday rolls around, it's truly going to be a questionable, tested out in pregame kind of situation. And ultimately, I think he's going to end up going. So I think that the initial plan for them was to rest him last week for sure, and they should have won that game. Since they lost that game, I think they're going to have to force him back into action because it's a must-win game for them. So they're the better team. I fully expect this one to close -1 on the 49ers side.
Yeah, I think you could argue that if you're talking about just position, that Debo is the most valuable player at his position in the entire NFL. He can do everything. He can run. He can catch. He can throw. We've seen that before. They got to have him in the lineup. And motivation, guys, we talk about it all the time. San Francisco, it's hard to believe. Mikey just said they're better than the record, but the record is still good enough to be tied for the last playoff spot with Washington at 6-6. And they could be one of the teams that benefits from having 7 playoff teams instead of 6. So they have a lot to play for this week on the road in Cincinnati. Now, Giants, Chargers, big time win in Cincinnati to keep their playoff hopes alive. But can they do it 2 weeks in a row, RJ? They're laying 10.5, the total of 44.5 as well. What do you got?
Yeah, so it looks like the Giants are going to have to start Jake Fromm in this game. So everybody's going to be rushing to play the Chargers. That's why this line has gone up. But this is the Chargers we're talking about. They don't cover big numbers. They don't blow out teams. I know we just saw them blow out a team that was kind of a weird fake final. They were close in yards gained in that game. Chargers coming off just their second win of more than 6 points. They weren't as dominant as the score looks. Like I said, the Giants continue to play well on defense. They're just completely let down by the offense. So you go from Mike Glennon, who was absolutely terrible in that game, to Jake Fromm. Where's the drop off? I mean, there is not really any drop off. Fromm can play just as poorly as Glennon and have a similar game, but that defense is just playing very, very well right now. So I don't think Fromm can do much worse than what we've seen from the Giants quarterbacks the last few weeks, Jones included. And that Giants offense should be run heavy anyway with Saquon versus a bad Chargers rush defense. So that's what they should be coming out here and just pounding the ball with him. I think it's the last chance for the people in New York to save their jobs, and one of them is one of those things is getting Barkley going. Because if Barkley and the run game get going, you can say, oh, all we need was a quarterback. That's the only thing holding us back. Give us a quarterback next year and we'll be good. So I think they'll be run heavy. Chargers have to face the Chiefs next week. Not only do they face the Chiefs, they face them on Thursday Night Football. This is a terrible look ahead spot for them coming off a big win. I think questionable players in this game could get healthy. They know they're going to beat the Giants. So I'm going to wait to see how live this line goes. But if there's any inclination it's going to come down off of 10.5, I'm going to probably be on the Giants at that point because I think they cover this huge number.
All right, very good. Butch in the chat says, RJ, your humor kills me. I've been saying this for weeks. If you guys aren't following my man on Twitter, what are you doing? The man is low-key a savage on Twitter. I love my follow of RJ White. Now, the final 3 game, guys, I want takes from both of you because these are very important games. 425. We could argue, guys. And, Mikey, I'm going to start with you. And, RJ, you're going to piggyback. You could argue that this is the most important game of the week. We're talking Bills. We're talking Bucks in Tampa. Should be great weather. I was just there. It's gorgeous right now. The total is 52.5. Mikey, the Bucks right now are laying 3. What do you got?
Yeah, I think 3 is a friendly number. I make it minus 5.9 in the simulations. It's a tough spot for Buffalo. Giving Tom Brady the home environment is always going to be a good thing at this point in his career. I like the chemistry that he continues to have, especially in the red zone with Rob Gronkowski. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans both appear to be healthy. Leonard Fournette has been absolutely fantastic this year. And by the way, be sure that the Buffalo defense is any good against the run. They've had 3 pretty bad performances against decent offenses that can run the football. We used to talk about how good they were at stuffing that. I'm not so sure that they are. So I like the Bucs here. Look, the Bills are a team that is going to be dangerous, and if they are clicking offensively, they can hang with any team in the league. There is zero doubt about that. However, with White out, we talked about that a lot going into this game. A lot of people in media didn't really get to materialize into anything because of the weather last night and an offense that doesn't really throw the football if they don't have to. They have to now. And look, I think that's going to get exposed quite a bit here against Tom. So for me, it's Bucks or nothing. And I would expect this one to close closer to 4, but we'll see what kind of groups buy back on the other side with the Bills. But I'm not trusting the desperate Bills team against this Bucs team in this spot. If the Bills were at home, sure, but pass on the Bills side.
RJ, let me set you up this way, because Josh Allen at the start of the year, he was going to be the NFL MVP and throwing the ball all over the place. Stephon Diggs catching balls, and now you hear what Mikey says when you watch the Bills. I know it was windy last night, but they didn't even try to throw the ball until the fourth quarter, and then they were somewhat successful. They should have done that the entire game. But what can the Bills do, or what should they do to counteract everything Mikey just said and have a shot Sunday? If they play well, they can beat this team.
Well, if they had some semblance of a running game, they could have success running the ball against Tampa, because Tampa's run defense has not been as good as it has in the past. And as we assume it is, I think they're now 8th in yards per carry. Atlanta ran it all over them in the first quarter of that game. I think before halftime, they showed that Atlanta had 100 yards rushing, and it just seems like teams are taking the Bucs rush defense off guard. So if the Bills had a run game, that might work for them. But the Bills do not have a run game. They can't run because they're not built that way. So they're going to throw it. It's very predictable what they do when they throw the ball. That's why a lot of teams that have personnel to slow them down have been able to slow them down. And the Bucs have a great defensive coordinator. they should come into this game and they should be able to limit them. I think if this was 3 on a neutral, I'd probably lean Tampa, but it's 3 in Tampa. And so, I mean, you got to love the Bucs if it's 3 in that situation going against Tre'Davious White. Travis White being out, I disagree that he wouldn't have made a big impact in that game. The Patriots completed 67% of their passes in that game. With Tre'Davious White, they might have only completed 33% of their passes. So it would have been a huge game changer in that game. So unfortunately, we didn't have him, and I think that was probably the difference why we didn't win that game. So yeah, I just Bucs all the way in this game. Tom Brady's going to throw all over the Bills, and I don't know that the Bills will keep up.
Just for you people who may not have caught that, Mac Jones threw it 3 times last night. He threw it 3 times last night. That was so funny. Oh, there was a great meme today. I don't know if you guys follow the Twitter handle NFL Memes. And it said something like, when you're part of it in the class, but you didn't really participate. It was like one of those type of jokes. It was actually pretty funny. For those of you at home that heard Mikey say at the top of the show that the Bills, if they lose this week, could have difficulty making it into the playoffs. They've got 5 games left. They're 7-5. Okay. They still have the Bucs, but then they have the Panthers at home. Then they have the Patriots in New England again. And then they got the Falcons at home and the Jets at home. So at least the schedule makers, RJ, did the Bills a solid. But 2 of these 5 going to be tough to win because they're both on the road.
Well, they did him. It seems like they did him a solid with only having these 2 tough games late. Plus, you throw in the Patriots 1, so 3. But remember that first half of the season, it was just all easy games plus the Chiefs game. It was just like that was the one thing they had to prepare for. And other than that, they're just playing all these pushovers. So the whole season they just got gifted a great schedule with just depending on who they played. And still they're struggling to make the playoffs at this point. So I mean, at this point, you should be fighting for the number 1 seed, and now you're fighting for a playoff spot. So it's just been a disappointing season for Buffalo, considering expectations going in.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, let's move on now to Sunday Night Football. 2 games left on our early board. And thank you as always for joining us on the Early Edge Weekly NFL Mega Preview. Don't forget tomorrow, we don't have a college football preview tomorrow. College football now into bowl season, but we will also have bowl specials coming up in a week or week and a half. Of course, we'll tweet out all of those schedules for our YouTube page you're watching right now. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. It's for free. Turn on all those notifications. All right, Mikey, let me come to you. Bears and the Packers. Big number, 12.5. Total sitting on 43.5. We all know that it only matters for one team in this spot. They have a quarterback a little bit banged up with the toe issue. And the Packers right now, when you look at it, they're 9-3, tied with the Bucs for that 2-3 seed. The Cardinals are 10-2. So none of these teams can afford a loss going forward. What do you like here?
Yeah, I can't get to anything pregame on it. I make it minus 13.2, so the lean would be in the favor of the Packers here. I just question how much they're going to need to keep the foot on the pedal later in this one. I think they're going to want to keep everyone healthy at that point, but I don't trust this Bears team going into this environment in this matchup. So I would literally need 14.5 or more. I'd need to get through the full 2 touchdowns to be able to feel comfortable backing the Chicago Bears in this game. So I'm not playing anything on it there. I think you could lean to the under. The issue with that is if Rodgers and company are clicking, they could put up 37 on their own pretty easily. So it's a stay away for me at this point, but we'll see what kind of market movement we get later in the week. If we somehow get some buying on the Chicago side, I know RJ is going to probably shake his fist or his finger at me for this one, but if we get a little more buying there, I could consider teasing the Packers under a touchdown here. If I could somehow get it under 6, I could consider it, as I think they're pretty comfortable to win this one, but not a play yet at this point. I need some pretty big buying on the Bears for that to happen for me.
RJ, you wagging your finger at Mikey?
I just don't think that 7-12 corridor is very, very valuable. I think that if the Packers are winning by 8 or 9, they're probably winning by 13, 14. I just don't see that falling in that window that often. It's a huge spread considering the lowest total, but Green Bay is a cover machine at home. 10-2 this year against the spread, but 5-0 at home against the spread. If not for the Vikings loss, they'd have covered 11 straight. That was a close game, could have went either way. So they had that terrible game in week 1, and then they've just been, balling out since then. Bears just 1-6 against the spread their last 7. The defense gives up a bunch of points, even if the yards allowed is solid. So I don't want to look at the yardage numbers and say, oh, they should probably be, not giving up as many points because they give up 33 to Arizona, and Kyler Murray throws the ball like 15 times. He doesn't have to do much, and they're still putting up 30 points on this Bears team in bad weather. I think the only chance the Bears have is with Fields. But do they want to throw him to the wolves with this injury? I mean, maybe Nagy does. He want to keep his job, but the get him to next season healthy is kind of the thing. Don't get him re-injured. So if it's Nagy's decision, then I think Fields might play. But if it's if the ownership steps in, and I say ownership for the Bears, I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers, because as we know, Aaron Rodgers owns the Bears. Remember that game from earlier. So it works out in either way. Either Aaron Rodgers gets a win for the Packers, or he gets a win as the Bears owner. So good job for Aaron in this game. My numbers would have a little bit of value on Chicago, but considering how bad they always play in Green Bay, I'm not going to play that. I'm probably going to play the Green Bay side. I just don't want it to go up anymore. So we'll see if we get a little bit lower, number 11.5, 12, before I jump on the Packers. But that's probably the side I'm going to be on.
Dare I ask Mikey another finger-wagging question? Faustino in the chat says, come on, Mikey, what about taking the Bears up to 18.5? We did that earlier this year with the Texans, and we got our brows beat when we did that, and that was at 23. Would we do it here, Mikey?
It does not profile as a spot that I would do it, no.
Okay.
I would, yeah.
Okay. He's like, very simple. Don't need to discuss it. Let's move on. All right, final game of the week, and this is big time. This is just the games you look at and you say, this is what should be on Monday Night Football every single week. Rams, Cardinals. Cardinals, the number 1 seed. The Rams are 8-4. We're talking 10-2, 8-4. RJ, I'm going to start with you. The number looks like right now the Cardinals sitting at 3 and the total at 51.5. I love this game. Do you?
Yeah, it's sitting at 3. It looks like it's going to tip to 2.5 because people are more excited about the Rams than they are the Cardinals. They have been all season, even though the Cardinals just keep on answering the call every week in and week out. Colt McCoy at quarterback, Kyler Murray quarterback, doesn't really matter who's playing. So it's just a great season by them. And they're at home, and it's probably going to get to 2.5. And at that point, I'm going to be on the Cardinals. The Rams got back on track last week, but it's a very easy matchup. Everybody gets back on track against the Jaguars. 0-5 except for the Bills, obviously. 0-5 against the spread before that for the Rams. And the Cardinals offense benefited from short fields to score those 33. But the most important thing is Kyler looked healthy in that game. He dominated the first meeting between these teams. And if he's healthy in this game and running around making plays, they're going to score a bunch of points, even against what should be a better defense with Von Miller. But they showed that they were good defensively coming into the season, and then they couldn't limit the Cardinals at all. The Rams need a win to stay in the division race, so it's a huge motivation factor for them. But it's the same motivation for Arizona. They can lock up the division here, and they're not going to get caught by San Francisco. Seattle's out of it. So you beat the Rams here. You have the tiebreaker on the Rams because you swept them, and you have that 3-game lead. I mean, it's done at that point. You're probably thinking about, if we can lock up the number 1 seed, we can get some rest in week 18. If we can't get the number 1 seed for whatever reason, maybe we lose a few of these games, we still rest in week 18. But they're playing for number 1. They're playing for home field. This is a huge game for them. It's really the biggest game of the year for them. So lay the points with the Cardinals once it comes down to 2.5. You might even find 2.5 at some spots now.
RJ, you bring up so many good points, and Mikey, I'll come to you. We're talking about the number 1 seed, and now more than ever, it's so important because there's only one on each side. Then you've got the COVID issues. You've got the 18 or 17 game schedule issues. It's never been more important to have a bye than it is right now. The way that Kyler Murray looked on Sunday, are you confident that they can finish the season and kind of hold the other teams off that are, 2 teams that are just 1 game back right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they definitely can, but this is a game that, it's a huge game for both teams. But Arizona here, you want to win this game. It's very, very, very important. They get the benefit of playing at home. I mean, look, I think that these 2 teams are still pretty good, right? Obviously, losing Robert Woods, while he didn't have a great season, it still is an impact to the Rams team. The Rams should be a little better than they have been defensively. I think it's going to be a great game, frankly. My favorite way to play it is actually the over. I know it's a big number at 51.5. a lot like the over I played last week in the Cincinnati LA Charger game. I expect it to be competitive. I expect it to be one that shoots out. This Cardinals team has put up over 30 points 8 times this season. And some of that is, they definitely put up some points. And then you look at the Rams, in some of their losses, they've really struggled, but in wins, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. They put up 30 plus points 5 times and been 28 several times as well. So these offenses in competitive games like this, it's got shootout written all over it for me. So that's where I'm going to be heading on this one. Logic says grab the Cardinals at -2.5 when it dips there, but I'm not going to end up getting there.
Very good. Quick chat question before we get out of here. Brent says, Coach, did the Bucs have a bye last year? As we're talking about the buys, I believe the Packers did, didn't they? Wasn't the Packers the number 1 seed last year? Who was it? I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
It definitely wasn't the Bucs. Bucs were a wild card.
No.
They had to go on the road and beat Washington. They won the rest of them. I think the Packers were the number 1 seed. I think that's who they played in the championship game, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. That's right.
I do know they had to play the Packers at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Don't forget, with all of these games that are kind of up in the air, it's never been more important to join us right before Thursday Night Football, Steelers and the Vikings at 7:20 Eastern Time. We count down sides, totals, props, anything you could possibly want. Then, of course, Sunday we have 3 big shows. 10 a.m. Eastern Time, then noon for a full hour, and then 7:20 Eastern Time as well. Turn on those notifications. Don't miss a minute. Hopefully, you got these plays in. So, Johnny, if you could throw up the recap screen for me real quick. And I like to end every single show as my guys tell me what they're most looking forward to for the week. As you take down their best bets, you don't need to read them off, guys. Mikey, tell me, what are you most looking forward to this week?
I'm most looking forward to the Ravens game, honestly. Both of these teams, huge game in the division there, huge game in the AFC overall for them. And then I'm also looking forward to that Chargers game. So I didn't mention it because I didn't talk much on that game, but Keenan Allen in the COVID protocols, he may not play. That changes that offense drastically. Wide receivers don't typically make a ton of difference to the spread. However, he is a huge safety valve for Justin Herbert, so definitely a big deal if he's unable to go for them.
Yeah, he scored twice, and one of them was a 4th down touchdown right at the beginning of the game. It changed everything and how that game was going. Keenan Allen's a beast. That is a beast. Keep an eye on that. It's important. RJ, what do you got?
Well, it's obviously the last game we talked about, Rams-Cardinals. I mean, if Rams can pull off the upset here, it opens up the NFC. Cardinals have been running away with it all year. The Packers just keep on doing their thing. So if they come out of that game against Chicago with a win, and then the Rams upset the Cardinals, I mean, the Rams are in play for the division at that point because it's they split the head-to-head. So it's just really interesting then in the NFC between those teams and Tampa. So we know that the AFC is going to be interesting because anytime somebody gets to the number 1 seed, they fall apart like the Titans and Ravens, and hopefully the Patriots. I'm hoping that the Bills can still sneak into the division there. We'll see. But this Rams-Cardinals game could do that same thing for the NFC, make it really interesting, but in a good way, not in teams falling apart, just a lot of really good teams duking it out for that number 1 seed. So I'm going to be on the Cardinals, but a Rams win would make that very interesting in that conference.
There's no doubt about it at all. I'm looking forward to see if the teams that are supposed to win, because this hasn't happened all year, if they're supposed to win and they're in the playoff hunt, if they go in and take care of business. Not a late game win, not, a couple of pick sixes. Go in and play a good football game on all 3 phases, offense, defense, special teams, and get the job done. Because no team has done it consistently all year. Nobody. We'll see what happens this week. All right. We love you all. Once again, shout out to the maestro. He's going to be gone for a few weeks on paternity leave, but he has earned it. Brand new baby girl. But we're going to be here every single day, including Christmas, including New Year's. We do it, we grind, and we love every single second of it. So there's only one thing left to do, and you all know what that is. On a Tuesday, our mega preview. It doesn't matter the day because you got your marching orders. Let's take all of these tickets straight to the pay window. For my guys, R.J. White, M Squared, Johnny on the 1s and the 2s. Whoo! Another good hour. Hopefully you enjoyed it too. Have a great day. Pay it forward. We're in December. It gets serious. Sometimes you get better fatigue. Take a step back. Relax. Focus. Don't get loose. Don't get loose. Tell all your friends there's only one brand you even need to worry about. We like to call it the Early Edge. Good luck. Do you want best bets in your feed every single day? All you have to do is hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all things Early Edge.